Hi everyone. Let's wait a few minutes for people to get connected while I look for the comment section. Need some lobby music that I can play. Hello. Let's see here. I had a little Wi-Fi scare a second ago. Thought maybe I wouldn't be able to connect. Okay, now I can look at these comments. Cool. Hello, 2 people. Let's turn that noise off. Let's wait just a minute or so for people to realize that I'm live and get connected, and then we'll get started. So excited for our lesson today. How's everyone doing? Maybe leave something in the comments about how your week's been going, or if you've been drawing anything, or even if you drew something over the week, you could post a photo of it in the section. Let's see here. And we'll just wait 1 minute. I'm in my new studio today. It's a little echoier, so if you feel like the sound is bad, I can lay more blankets down in the room so you can not hear echoing. Oh, thanks, Debbie. Okay. Yes, you are signed in correctly, Debbie. I saw that. Hey, Dave. We're gonna get started in just a minute. I only have 2 people in here, so we'll wait just a sec. You'll be happy to know, Dave, that I am going to be teaching about using ballpoint pens today, so took some inspiration from you. Okay, let's get started in 1 more minute, and then I'll just jump in. So at 1:02, we'll get started. Okay, it's 1:02. So let me pull up my notes. Hi, everybody. Today is our second comic drawing class that we're having. The first one was a week ago. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're returning from the last lesson, welcome back. And if you're watching for the first time, welcome. I'll reintroduce myself, which give me 1 second to see if I can see these comments. Okay. So my name is Samantha, and I am the youth librarian at the Kansas City Public Library's Northeast Branch. That means that I focus on books, services, and programs for young people at our branch in our community. I also happen to be a comic book artist and illustrator, so obviously these 2 things together mean that I really enjoy teaching these classes, and I'm really excited to share some comics tips with you today. So just like the last lesson, I'm going to talk for a few minutes about something comic related. Then we'll jump into the drawing part, and then at the end I will plug in a free resource about comics, making comics, reading comics through the library or through somewhere else that then you guys can utilize. So let's just jump in. So this lesson, the first part we're going to talk about is different comic making tools. So there's lots of different things you can use to draw comics, you use to make comics, not just the drawing part. And every artist uses different tools, and they can be as simple or as fancy as you want them to be, and we'll see a whole range. A good example of a more traditional type of tool using is Raina Telgemeier, who you know is the author and illustrator of Smile and Sisters and Drama, and she did the first few Babysitters Club, if you've seen those. She uses a traditional dip brush ink, which is basically you have an ink brush, which I'm not sure if this is specifically for ink, but close enough. And then you dip it and ink and draw with it. It's a little more complicated and a little harder to use. You have to practice for a while to get good at using a brush like that, because honestly you end up splattering it most of the time or making like rough lines. So it's kind of hard to use, but it's definitely a fun thing to use. And then the opposite example of that is the illustrator Raoul III, who wrote the Lowriders, or illustrated the Lowriders series, if you've ever read that. He just uses a good old-fashioned ballpoint pen. Nothing fancy. You probably have these laying around your house. And he made his whole series with nothing but a ballpoint pen. So you really don't need the fanciest tools to make comics, but I think that if you want to get into making comics, it's good to know what tools other artists are using, just so you start to recognize that. So let me go through some different tools that you'll probably see if you're going to hobby stores or art stores and looking up in the comics section, the kind of stuff you'll see. So I personally like to use a traditional dip nib pen, which looks like this. It kind of looks like the old-fashioned kind of pen that people used, 100 years ago, except with a feather on the end. And then, like Raina Telgemeier, I just dip it in ink. I really like this because with these kinds of pens, the line is as thin or as thick as you press. So if you press really hard, the line gets thicker. And if you barely press at all, the line is really thin, which is nice if you're trying to draw little details or really thick lines for emphasis. Something else a lot of artists use that isn't traditional is a tablet. Tablets are great because they don't require a lot of cleaning and they are portable. You can take it with you anywhere. But a lot of artists, especially now, make their artwork on a tablet. And it's really great. You just need a stylus and the tablet, and then you can draw, color, do the text, everything on a stylus or on a tablet. So this is how a lot of artists make their graphic novels today. Or you can do a combination. For instance, Raina Telgemeier, what she does is she draws with ink, and then she lets that dry. She scans it into a computer, and then she can color it, or another artist can color it with a tablet. So that's a great tool. That's an investment though. These are expensive, so unless you're a professional artist, you probably aren't spending a lot of money on something like this. Some other simple tools that a lot of artists use when they make comics. First off, the most important tool any artist can have, and my personal favorite, is a good old pencil. I love pencils. It's my favorite thing to draw with. You can use the kind of pencils you use in school, or you can get drawing pencils, which vary in softness and hardness and allow you to draw differently. Usually people don't do their finished comics with a pencil, but you can definitely do that. There's really no rule against it. And then following up pencils, something that's really important is erasers. And I actually have two types that I like to use. There's the good old-fashioned cube eraser, right? Most of us have one of these at, like in our school supplies or something. They're usually pink. Mine's white because it's fancy. And then I really like these like mechanical, wrong end. These mechanical erasers. They pop out like this, and they are good at getting little details. Let's see, another fun tool that honestly you probably don't really need to use one of these anymore, but you'll see them, is it's called a lettering guide. And what it does is it lets you make lines on a piece of paper, even lines, so that you can then put lettering and make your letters look nice and even. I think also architects use this, not just comic artists. It's very handy if you want to make straight lines. And then following that up, another really important tool is a ruler. Rulers are very important for making straight lines because often when someone tells me how bad of an artist they are, they say, I can't even draw a straight line. Well, guess what? Nobody can. That's what rulers were made for. So I like to get clear ones because then I can see the drawing underneath the ruler and line things up right. But you don't even need a ruler. You can use the edge of a book, not a library book, but the edge of a book or a sketchbook or something that has a straight edge if you don't have a ruler at home. Another specialized tool that's kind of also something that people don't use as much anymore is this fancy specialized, I know it looks like a blue color pencil, but it's actually called a non-photo blue pencil. And what this is, it's a very special color blue. And what you can do with it is you can make a scribbly, messy drawing and then make a final drawing on top of it. And when you scan it into the computers, or even, I think it used to work with photocopiers, but now you probably scan it into a computer, and the computer program can know to take all of that blue color out of the drawing, so then it disappears. So you know that whatever you draw with this blue will vanish in the final drawing, which is very handy sometimes if you mess up a lot like I do. Another good tool is these are specialty drawing pens, art pens. They're made with archival ink, which is just a fancy word for ink that doesn't fade for a very, very long time. These are great for small details. They usually range in size, so you can see one of the nibs is thicker than the other. So if you want to make little details and different types of details, these are really helpful. And then the last one is a fun one that you've probably seen in places before, but don't really know why it exists, and it's a mannequin. So this is called a mannequin, an artist mannequin. And basically what it is it's something that can help you figure out how to pose. If you have a character that with a difficult way that they're posed, this can kind of help you figure out, like, what does it look like when the leg is lifted up, or, you know, it helps you with proportions too. Like, a lot of people don't know to draw the arms so long that they touch down to the legs. They'll draw them like all the way up here. So this is really helpful, especially if you're just beginning and don't have a lot of experience drawing people. This can be really helpful. I don't really use it anymore, but it's fun decoration. It's kind of like the symbol of being an illustrator, is the little mannequin. A lot of people decorate with it too. But there are lots of different tools like that. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many different types of pens and all sorts of things like that that you can use to make comics. But again, it doesn't have to be that fancy, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. Really, the most important thing is to use what you feel comfortable with, what you like to draw with, and even more importantly, what you have around you. Growing up, I didn't have all these fancy supplies. I had pencils and pens that were just normal office supplies, and crayons. So I made a lot of comics with, I colored them with crayons and I drew them with pencil. And they were just as funny, I think, at least to my elementary age self. I thought they were pretty funny. So you don't really need fancy stuff to make a good comic. And remember, for these lessons, you'll never need anything more than paper and pencil for it. Okay. So now for the drawing part. So today we're going to focus on drawing speech bubbles. Since last week we focused on drawing faces, this week we're going to draw different types of speech bubbles, and I'll show you how to match up those faces to the different types of speech bubbles. So if you don't know, a speech bubble is the part of the comic where the character is talking. So a lot of times it goes around the letters and it has a little tail that will point to the character. This is really important because it tells you not only how the character is talking based on how it's drawn, but also which character is talking. So if you have two characters in a panel of a comic, this way you can tell which one is saying which words, because otherwise it can be a little confusing. So it helps the reader understand how the story is going, and it also helps you convey what strong emotions the characters are speaking in. So just like yesterday, to start, where's my marker? Hold on 1 second. There it is. Okay. Sorry about that. So to start, we're going to cut the page in half, just like we did yesterday. There you go. And then we're going to break it up into 3. And in each of these squares or rectangles, we're going to draw a different type of speech bubble. And I'm going to kind of show you what kind of speech correlates with each bubble. So the first one we're going to do is just a regular speech bubble. So it's if someone is talking in a regular tone, or if they're not using like a really, really strong emotion, maybe they're just being a little sarcastic or a little sad, you'll use a regular speech bubble. There's lots of different ways how to do it. Some people like to make them look more square. Some people like to make them look more circle. But either way, I like to do it by drawing one side and then finishing up the other side. So this is where the text will go, and then the tail will point to the character who's talking. And so in here you can put the text. I'm just going to put blah, blah, blah. Just a regular sentence, blah, blah, blah. And then if you want to draw a face to go along with it, we can, because I'm going to be talking about maybe what type of faces to draw. With the regular speech bubble, there's a lot of different faces that will probably be using this kind of speech bubble. But I'm just going to draw a generally happy person. You're just going blah, 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 right? So that's a regular kind of speech bubble. The next one I'm going to show you is called a burst speech bubble. And burst speech bubbles are useful, well, that's right, regular, so we can keep track. Regular. So a burst speech bubble is nice because it helps convey a really strong emotion. So if a character is yelling because they're surprised or because they're angry, a burst speech bubble is going to help really, really make that word pop, or that whatever they're saying pop. So a burst speech bubble has spikes, kind of like noise coming out. And then the tail is like a lightning bolt. So you can already tell that looks like something loud is happening in that bubble. So if you want to draw a face going like this, remember how we learned how to draw angry faces? Big eyes, angry. There's an angry face. Angry face yelling. And so in these bubbles, you want to make whatever words you're writing in it big and bold in all caps, because then it's going to also help make it look like a character is yelling or screaming. And then use as many exclamation points as you want. And this is called a burst speech bubble. Okay. Man, he does look angry. I'm going to fill in his mouth. We'll give everyone a few seconds to catch up. Okay, and the next one we're going to do is a whisper speech bubble. This isn't one I personally use a lot, but it's definitely one that could be useful if you're trying to tell maybe a ghost story and you need someone to be quiet like this, or the ghost is talking and it sounds quiet, something along those lines, or someone's whispering. But it basically looks just like the regular speech bubble, except that it's made of dotted lines like this. You can add more in if you feel like they're too spread out. And then with this bubble, it's really important that you make your words really small, because if you think about it, if you make the words a lot smaller in the speech bubble, the person who's reading it is going to have to lean in a little bit more to read it, just like you would have to lean in a little bit more to hear someone if they're whispering, right? So not only does it look like the words are smaller, but it actually makes the reader feel like they're having to lean in for a whisper, just like they would in real life. And for a face making a whisper, I think a really good one would be maybe a scared face. So let's draw someone scared. That's a scared person whispering. Okay. Oh, let's put whisper down here. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is a thought speech bubble, which technically isn't a speech bubble because you're thinking it, but you know what I mean. So everyone knows this one pretty much. It looks like a cloud, right? Like you're thinking about something, you're dreaming about something. So you're going to draw a cloud, and then little clouds that lead to the head of the person thinking. So then you know that the thoughts are coming out of that person's brain. And these, the letters can look like whatever you want in this one. I'm going to make my character confused, like they're thinking, what? So blah, blah, blah. Remember how we do a confused, one eyebrow down and one up? And then scratching his head. So that's a thought bubble. So let's write that down here. Okay. The next speech bubble we're going to do is a telephone or a radio or a TV. So if noise is coming out of a telephone or a radio or a TV, it's going to have a special tail on it so that people know that the sound isn't coming from the character, it's coming from their phone or it's coming off the TV or something. So you can do just a regular bubble outline, but the difference is that the tail looks like a lightning bolt. And that's to kind of make you think of electronics when you see it, so you know that, okay, that's not coming out of a person's mouth, that's coming from electronic. So let's say the character's on the phone, that's why we're seeing it. So they're holding their phone. And then we know that the sound's coming out of there. This is the TV or electronic one. I ran out of room. Okay, and then the last one we're going to do is like, I like to call it a sarcasm bubble, but it doesn't necessarily have to be used that way. It can be used lots of different ways, but it's kind of when somebody's being like sneaky or sarcastic, or maybe they're like really emphasizing their words like this. It's kind of like a regular bubble, but you make it wiggly. Or if someone's really groused out, like any kind of emotion like that. Kind of looks like slime, makes you feel, or like, I don't know, sarcasm, like it's dripping. And in this one, I would make the letters slanted or italicized, and that will help make that effect even stronger. And then this character is annoyed. We're going to draw an annoyed face. If you remember that the eyes are rolling. I feel like you can't see down there. Let's see. There we go. Oh. So that's a very sarcastic character. Blah, blah, blah. That's what I imagine he's saying. So these are all the different, there's so many different ways you can draw speech bubbles. And there's no one right way. You can do your own style, or you can even come up with your own type of speech bubble. What it's really about is using visual clues to make a reader understand the sound or the emotion coming from the speech bubble. That's what a lot of this is. So now what we're going to do is our takeaway project. So let me get another piece of paper, and you get another piece of paper too. Okay, so for our takeaway project, what we're going to do is I'm going to guide you through drawing a cartoon teddy bear. And then what you're going to do with that cartoon teddy bear is you're going to add to it after this lesson is over. What I'm not going to draw are the eyes and the mouth of the teddy bear, because your job is to give the teddy bear whichever emotion you want from the last lesson we learned, or if you come up with your own, and then also to correlate it with one of the bubbles we learned about today. So basically I'm going to walk you through drawing the teddy bear, and then you're going after this to make your own teddy bear, and the goal of this is that I want you to make me laugh. So I want it to be like a funny joke. So I'm going to walk you through this now, and I'll take a step back after each step so that you have time to catch up. So the first thing we're going to draw is a circle. And that is the head of the teddy bear. And the reason I'm drawing it kind of down on the paper is that you always want to try to remember to give yourself room for the speech above. Because if your character takes up the whole space of where you're trying to draw, then you won't have any room for your speech bubbles. You want to always make sure to leave room for your speech bubbles. Sometimes I even draw the speech bubble first so I know that I have room for all of the words, because, you know, telling the story is the most important part, and if you don't have room for the words, you can't read it. So you have the circle, and then we're going to draw the two ears and give them little circles like this. And those are just little half circles. And then for the body, we're going to come down and a curve like this. It's going to be a sitting teddy bear. And then the legs are going to come out like this. So you kind of have a big, long swoop that ends in a straight line right here. And then you're going to draw a leg, and you're going to draw the arm, and I'll let you catch up. And both of those are the same shape, just a loop like this. And then you can draw the belly of the teddy bear, which comes up like this. I like to make my teddy bears full of stuffing, nice and plump. And then you're going to draw the other leg like this. And then the last arm of the teddy bear you can draw however you want. I like to make them waving. I like to think teddy bears are friendly. And then I'm going to show you how to draw the nose, but other than that, you're going to draw your own face however you want. So let's give them a triangle nose like this. That's very cute. And then for the details, we'll give them a belly circle. And then I like to, so that you know it's a teddy bear and not a regular bear, you give them little stitches on its feet and on its hands. That really helps. And then if you want to do it down the center too, that helps. So now you know it's a teddy bear. Okay, and so your job is to take this teddy bear, give him a face emotion and a speech bubble to make me laugh. And I'm going to do one right now just as an example, but you don't have to draw any more of what I'm drawing. This is just to show you kind of a joke. So I'm going to make an angry teddy bear. It's going to have big wide open eyes. And his mouth's going to be open like this. And remember, the most important part of angry faces are the eyebrows. And then if you remember, if you wanted to convey a really strong emotion, the kind of speech bubble you would do is a burst bubble. And then with the lightning bolt tail. And that looks like an angry bear yelling something. What should it be yelling? Let's see. I'm about to lose my stuffing over here. He's a bear and he is fed up. He's about to lose his stuffing, which is the stuffing. I don't know. I think it's funny. Also, you can put an exclamation point over an angry bear head, but I really want to see what kind of jokes you guys make. You can make a sad bear, maybe he's crying because he got left up on a shelf for too long, or maybe you can make a bear that's laughing about something that it shouldn't be laughing about because that's funny. There's all sorts of things you can do, and I'm so excited to see what you guys come up with. Please always feel free to post the drawings that you guys are making. You can ask, if you're too young to have a Facebook account, you can ask a grown-up to post it for you. And you can tag us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at KC Library, and it will tag us. So then we can see it and we can maybe repost it. That'd be great. I would love to see what you guys are drawing. I just wanted to give you guys a head up that next week our lessons are going to change a little bit. Instead of doing these on Facebook Live, we have decided that the best way to reach younger kids especially is through YouTube. So we're going to start doing these lessons on YouTube Live instead. We'll still post all of the links and everything you need to know onto Facebook. So if you follow us on Facebook, you'll still have access to that. But the great thing about YouTube is you don't have to be 13 to make an account the way you do on Facebook or Instagram. And since this is a class for 8 to 12-year-olds, that means that they'll actually be able to watch it without needing an adult to help them with that. So I'm gonna start doing that next week, and not just me, but there will be some other youth librarians posting some writing lessons and some STEAM stuff on there as well. So definitely, if you have a YouTube account, subscribe, and I'll tell you the name of the channel. If you don't, just keep an eye on Facebook, and we'll let you know when something is going to be on YouTube. And the name of our channel is KC Library Youth and Family Engagement, and it's kind of a long name, but I'll post it again after the fact. So keep an eye out for that. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with is a link to a list I made in our library catalog. And the list in that list has access to Raina Telgemeier and Raoul III, those two artists I was talking about. It has all of their ebooks listed on there, so you can actually read some of their books and look at the different styles that they use. So you can notice Raoul III's ballpoint pen drawings, and you can notice Raina Telgemeier's very smooth, professional-looking brush drawings. And also on that, I linked Raina Telgemeier posts in very good detail and with photos her whole process of how she makes her comic books from sketches to final book. And it's very, very useful, not just even for kids. Like, I got a lot of value out of it, so I would definitely take a look at that. And I have the link right here, so I'm going to copy it right now and post it onto this thread. And then I'll also put it in the description of the video once it's archived on our Facebook page. If you don't have a library card and can't access those ebooks, you can make a digital one on our website. You can always message us to find out how to do that. Let's see. Let me look through the comments real quick to see if there is an answer. WS Pigma Pins. I wasn't going to talk about the name brand of them because I didn't want to mention brands, but you know, Pigma Pins work too, I guess. Doesn't look like there's any other questions. So thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. And again, next week we'll be doing YouTube Live instead of Facebook Live. But you can still follow Facebook and still know when we're going to do that. It'll be at the same time next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. So if that's it. Oh, and we're going to be talking about making panels. So we've learned faces for our characters, we've learned speech bubbles, and next week we'll start learning about how to make panels, which are the squares and circles that you tell the story in, and we'll learn how to make a joke doing that. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and I hope you guys have a good week full of drawing and creating and relaxation. So have a good time, and bye! Thanks for listening.